Good afternoon. This is Amy Vickery. I wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview with you at Panter for the job of media specialist and for being able to create this presentation to show you beforehand. If you hear any bells in the background, I apologize in advance. I'm still at McEachern during post-planning and trying to get a quiet moment during lunch to do this, but they still have the bells going, so I apologize again in advance. I figured that the best way to present myself as a media specialist would be to show you my professional portfolio that I created this past spring to finish up my Master's of Education and Instructional Technology with Georgia Southern. We had to complete hours at all three levels, elementary, middle, and high school. I did the majority of mine at the high school level, but I was able to do elementary and middle also for a day each and had the best time at those two. And actually, my most favorite day was the one at the elementary school, which I will get to in a minute. But this portfolio is full of all the different projects and collaborations and technology implementations, tools that we learned about, used, you name it. So I figured that would be the best way to show you what I would be all about as a media specialist. I won't show you the entire website. I will give you a link to it in my email when I send you this video. And if you have time, you can look at it. I just wanted to hit the high points to give you an idea of who I am. So I was going to start with over here with the 5 roles and go into the teacher section. These projects are all over the place. I took a while to get my degree, and so you'll see several years over here, but I'm going to scroll down to what I did, something I did this semester, which is a reading enrichment unit, and I did this at a middle school, at Durham Middle School in Cobb County. And I did a book talk on a book series called The Chronicles of Vladimir Todd, and it goes all the way from 8th grade to 12th grade, and I did a book talk on the 8th grade book, vampire books, very popular with the middle schoolers, and I targeted the 8th graders because they were about to start high school, so kind of piggybacking off the book, I was able to talk to them about how they feel about high school, going to high school next year, and I created a website, which you'll see down here, and if you go onto my portfolio later, there's a link to this website, but it had all different types of resources pertaining to them starting high school, and I created some QR codes with a survey and some other readings about high school and teenagers and so forth. I was a little nervous talking to 8th graders because I talk to seniors all day long, and the media specialist at Durham said that sometimes 8th graders get excited about nothing. So I was very excited when I finished the book talk and the other things that I talked to them about, that one of the 8th graders actually followed me out of the classroom to the media center and immediately checked out a book from the series. So that was pretty cool. A little bit of validation for me. Let's see. The next thing that I wanted to show you, it goes under instructional partner. And this collaborative lesson I did this semester here at McEachern with a special education teacher, the MID students, and this was one of my absolute favorite things that I did this semester. It was a very simple lesson plan, comparatively speaking. They are definitely impaired, learning impaired, as well as mentally impaired, but they just had a simple U.S. states project, and we were creating a simple PowerPoint, nothing fancy, not Prezi or anything, but for them it was definitely a little higher order thinking, because she wanted them to add in not just words and sentences, but pictures and some animation, and I was able to meet with her before hand, and we talked about the lesson and what my role would be, and how much information she was going to give them beforehand. And then they came to the media center, and we set up PowerPoint, and I showed them the websites that they could use to get their information, and then we set up the PowerPoint. So we did an editing session, then we did an animation session, and then it all ended in a presentation day, and I was able to, thank goodness, attend that and watch them do their presentations. And I attached here on my portfolio just some pictures of the process of us setting everything up, and then finally ending on the right here on presentation day. And then I attached one of a rubric and then one of their actual presentations, and they did a fabulous job, and I enjoyed the entire process of from starting with meeting the teacher with the teacher and us setting up our lesson plan, which is this right here. I meant to point out as I was going through all this the different technology that I used to put this together. Besides the Weebly website itself, all my documents here downloaded through Scribd, which is this right here. It's a publishing site where you can download your own documents, but you can also find other things that people have published. But this is just an example of the lesson plan that the special education teacher and I put together. I really enjoyed collaborating, and I understand that it is something that most media specialists struggle with, is finding time to meet with teachers to collaborate, and finding teachers that are willing to collaborate, because they do have to give up so much of their time. So I would like to be able to come up with some kind of plan with teachers at Panter if I do become the media specialist, that would take up minimal amount of their time to be able to collaborate with them and help them use technology and the research and literature and all of that from the library into their lessons. All right, so let's move on to information specialists. This was actually interesting. It's kind of a side note. When I did this particular assignment, the collection development plan, that now in Cobb County, they're putting together what they call a learning commons and changing all of their media centers into this learning commons idea, which is going to be less emphasis on books and more emphasis on technology. And this, I won't show you the entire plan, but the section that I did a collection analysis on is actually completely gone out of the library in just 3 years that we got rid of it, and now it's mostly online and in databases. This, did you know, is a curation list that I put together to help the special education students with that collaboration unit know what pictures they could use. It has some copyright information, and they got the graphics on this are huge, and a website that has places where they can get pictures that are that are protected, that they can use, that are not protected by copyright in their public domain. That's the word I was looking for. And just some basic tutorials on PowerPoint, and then this Culturegrams is actually the website that they use to get most of their information. But this website right here, Listly, is a very good curation tool that I've discovered in the course of my master's program. So that would be something that I would be happy to show teachers at a school also as a media specialist. Okay, let's see. My next one is a program administrator. This was another one I did. I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I started this back in 2008. It took me the full 7 years. I can talk more about that in the interview, but this was pretty fun. It was the first blog I ever did, and it was definitely a learning experience, and I've come a long way with the technology, most definitely. This was a grant that I filled out that I actually would be interested in maybe talking with you about if I were to be hired, because this is a literacy grant for Title I schools, and I was filling it out for Mount Bethel Elementary, which is where I did my hours, in March, and they are not a Title I school, so it really didn't apply to them. And I noticed in looking at your website this weekend that you are a Title I school, and so this would definitely be something we could look at if you would be willing to. This rubric right here was very interesting. I did it on the McEachern Library, but it was an eye-opener as to what actually are most of the operations in a media center. Some of them, honestly, in the program, I had no idea that these were things that were going on just from the libraries that I've been accustomed to as a teacher, and the things that didn't happen that I would like to see happen, especially if I were to be a media specialist. And the biggest one, just that seems to be across the board, is just collaborating with teachers and actually being a teacher in the classroom with another teacher, and true collaboration, basically. All right, let me go back. I feel like I'm running out of time. And then the teacher media specialist as a leader. This, I had a blast doing all of these, creating these online modules. I'm really interested in blended learning, flipped classrooms, online teaching, and this professional development. I have a video for this also that I had to put on YouTube as part of my program. They wanted it to be made private, so I would have to send you an email through YouTube if you wanted to see it. But I had to video myself delivering this professional development unit and I wound up doing it with my English department members at McEachern. But this is the lesson plan that I put together for it. It has all the documents and links and everything that they needed. But I had to do it in two formats, and one was as presentation, and I found this really cool presentation tool that's they're large, huge infographics that you can embed links and pictures and things into. And so I picked 3 different Web 2.0 tools to present to my department. And the first one is Pick to Chart. With this whole presentation thing is actually Pick to Chart. And I can embed videos for tutorials. Then I actually did this Weebly, which is the website that I use for my portfolio, more tutorials for that. And then this other cool timeline tool called Dippity, and more tutorials. And then after I did that, I had to convert the entire thing to an online module that all those teachers could just do from home and on their own, and learn about how to use those tools. And I think I've pretty much figured out how to make websites at this point. So let's see, I'm running out of time. This is my personal learning network, which is another curation tool. It's called Pearl Trees, which is really cool, and I actually downloaded this app onto my phone. And so if I'm looking at Pinterest or any other social media or just the web in general, I can automatically put these different things into Pearl Trees. It just automatically shares to that, and then I can access this on the computer also. So this, I'm going to go back. Let's see, the last thing, my blog has, this was one thing I wanted to make sure that I pointed out. On my blog, my favorite just thing to do was to make the display for, this was my visit to the elementary school. I feel like I'm going to have to say a whole bunch more in my interview. This was my display for the high school. I did it on books that have become movies, and it's not going very quickly. There it is. I love being crafty, and I love this poster maker machine, and I love stapling things onto the bulletin board. I made a QR code that connects to a website, and there's my finished product. I was pretty proud of my finished product. So yeah, I'm running out of time. I have my philosophy on my website also, and it just really is my heartfelt reasons for why I want to become a media specialist. And it's really kind of stemming out of observing media specialists that I hoped I would never be. And I can explain more of that in the interview as well. And I just really wanted to end with saying that I know that I have been in a high school for all of my education degree, but I really, when I started thinking about and started my program for media specialists, I've always pictured myself in an elementary school. And surrounded by children that are so very excited to still be learning, or to be learning, to learn how to learn, and are loving to read still, and that I can talk to them and read to them and tell them about the technology and start them early with the technology. And that's just where I've always envisioned myself, is in an elementary school and a media center. And just when I tell my son about it, who's in the 3rd grade, his eyes light up, and he's very excited about the fact that his mom might be an elementary school media specialist. So I believe that's my 15 minutes. So